In a previous study on the introduction to understanding prophecy found in Daniel and Revelation, we covered the rules that govern their interpretation. The second of them being that a prophecy or a prophetic element within a prophecy is not fulfilled until all the specifications are met. This includes the order of the events within the prophecy. With that stated, apocalyptic prophecy requires specific attention when it comes to chronological events versus non-apocalyptic prophecies. By first understanding apocalyptic structure, the vision of the prophets can then be organized in a chronological manner. This, of course, isn't just a simple understanding upon a first reading and attempting to grasp and properly interpret, in this case, what Daniel is being shown in his vision. With all considered, let's take a closer look at Daniel 9 verse 27. Concerning the appointed time of the end and the rise of the antichrist, this verse is continually debated and at the forefront of arguments in support of the aforementioned, as well as the supposed 7-year tribulation. The interpretation contested is that verse 27 concerns the antichrist, of whom confirms a covenant for 1 week with the nation of Israel. This 1 week is the basis for a 7-year tribulation taken out of context in regard to the vision of 70 weeks Daniel receives in verse 24. The idea is that the chronology of 69 weeks stops suddenly and the 70th week is fulfilled at a later time in the future with thousands of years in between. On the contrary, this vision is actually an echo from the book of Jeremiah concerning God's new covenant with Israel. We read this in Jeremiah 31 verse 31 to 33. Daniel provides more insight and detail as his vision describes the appearing of Messiah, his ministry, his being cut off, putting an end to Levitical sacrifices and so forth. Nowhere in Scripture is the confirming of covenants found other than with God and his people. Verse 26 and 27 are actually dealing with 2 different kings in a sense. Though Jesus was sent in human form from God the Father, the people of the ruler or prince is reference to Lucifer, of whom is the prince of this world and those who destroy the city and the sanctuary under his dominion. Let's examine the Scripture itself. And after the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be put to death and have nothing. The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue to the end, and desolations have been decreed. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. And at the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. Let's take a moment and note how this vision is written. Rather than being given details about one subject than the next, these verses follow a different pattern. Let's again read the first sentence only from each verse. And after the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be put to death and have nothing. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. Anointed one, confirm a covenant. These verses are dealing with Jesus Christ, and as we read the second sentences of each verse, it is interesting to see how they come together. They describe the coming of destruction by earthly armies under Titus, but a parallel to Lucifer, the one whose end is decreed at the appointed time. The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue to the end, and desolations have been decreed. And at the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured out on him. When reading between the lines quite literally, the intended meaning of these 2 verses becomes clear, and the prophecy of this particular scripture falls harmoniously in line with Jesus' death at the cross and the destruction of the temple in AD 70. When Jesus was crucified, his death was necessary to confirm the new covenant in God giving his one and only Son in order that mankind be redeemed. This put an end to the Levitical sacrifices which was required prior in order for Israel to make atonement for their sins. In the New Testament, Jesus explains to his disciples at the Mount of Olives the signs of his coming and the end of the age. He makes reference to the latter part of Daniel 9 verse 27, and at the temple he will set up an abomination that causes desolation. A foretelling of a time when his followers are to flee from Jerusalem before the destruction of the Second Temple in AD 70. A relevant text in Luke 21 verse 20 can be applied, where Jesus also foretells of Jerusalem being surrounded by armies, indicating that his disciples may know that desolation is near. As time would go on, they would in fact see those events come to pass. In Matthew 23, Jesus is calling out the Pharisees. Specifically in verse 38, he says, "See, your house is left to you desolate because of their corruptness and hypocrisy." With all considered, it confirms that the prophecy of Daniel 9 verse 27 was fulfilled at the destruction of the temple in AD 70. In verse 24, we know that the 77s is specifically decreed for Israel. In the 70th week, Jesus, the Anointed One, was cut off in the midst of his public ministry, but this did not complete the 70th week, however. After his resurrection and ascension, his disciples would continue this ministry to the Jews mainly, as we get into the book of Acts. In AD 34, Stephen was stoned at the order of the Sanhedrin, which could be regarded as the final event marking the close and fulfillment of the 70th week. The Jewish leaders of that time, again, ultimately rejecting the gospel, terminating the age-old covenant meant exclusively for them and their people. From that point on, the gospel would be preached and given unto the Gentiles by the Apostle Paul. We read about a remarkable event in Acts 10, where Simon, called Peter, receives a detailed vision in verse 28, 34, and 45, whereby the gospel of Jesus Christ is to be brought unto all those who will receive him, thus completing and fulfilling all as prophesied in Daniel 9.